Make sure you unmute your mic. Hello, everybody. Welcome. It is my Friday Live, Scarlett says, and I have a guest today, and her name is Jo Ousterhout. I probably said it wrong now after I knew how to say it.
That's quite all right. It's fine.
She is an expert on money, basically how to get you to have more of it, which is always a good thing to do. And Jo and I were talking a couple of weeks ago, and the reason why I'm having her on is because I observe how much money women spend on clothes that they either hate, don't wear, bought out of habit, and haven't returned. That always gets me, that people don't return things, because that's just money just being wasted, right? So I brought Jo on to help give us some tips on how to have more and spend less. Because when I say I don't want you to spend money, I mean, I want you to spend money wisely, not just spend it on things that you end up not using or that just simply are a waste. So there are ways to have more in your life, more things, and more money. And so Jo is going to share some of those tips with us. Take it away.
Thanks, Scarlett. And Happy New Year to everybody. And this is a great time. You know, we all make New Year's resolutions. And even if our resolutions this year aren't maybe going to be as sort of hard and fast as some in the past were, because we all need to take a little bit care of ourselves and be a little easier on ourselves. One of the things that always pops up is something around money. And it's often something around, you know, the way we look too, right? Our wardrobes, our closets. So yeah, thank you so much for having me on. And when Scarlett and I were talking a couple of weeks ago, one of the things that I noticed when she was saying about how many of her clients and prospective clients do spend money on clothes they don't wear or don't return them and maybe don't have the right, you know, colors and styles for them, is that when I work with women clients, one of the things that I would say 80% of the cases, when I ask people to total up the money they have spent over the last year and look at the categories and see, are they happy with the way they've been spending their money? I would say about 80% of them are shocked to realize how much they do spend on their wardrobe and their appearance in general, you know, which could include hair and nails and makeup and all that sort of thing. But also really the bigger expenses are usually on clothes and shoes. And again, it's a lot of things that when they think about it, they're like, really, I didn't wear that many things. You know, I spent X $1,000s and I didn't get that much use out of them.
Because spending more doesn't guarantee you're going to love how you look anyway.
And we've all done that. You know, we all go and see a great thing on sale. And I'm a sucker for materials. So I buy beautiful materials in just horrendous styles and colors for me. I've done that in the past because they're gorgeous. They're gorgeous art, you know, works of art. These materials are so beautiful. I'm never going to wear that. You know, I used to be a banker and I would buy these little lacy numbers. But I just find, anyway, I think we're all trying to get a lot smarter about that. And especially another thing I do see with a lot of people now is really worrying about the environment, and that they know that fashion industry is very hard on the environment, all the water that it takes to grow things like cotton, but then and linen,
chemicals,
flax, I suppose that is. But then, yes, and then also all the water and electricity, et cetera, that it takes to produce the clothes. And of course, the sweatshops where some things are produced. So all of those things are coming.
How many clothes now are like disposable? Like these, you know, like these $7.99 dresses. They're not going to make it after 1 or 2 washes. So they literally go in the garbage. There are piles of garbage now of cheap clothes.
Cheap clothes, yeah. And yet there's the pressure on so many of us to constantly be looking good and looking, you know, sort of new and fresh. Social media hasn't really helped women in that regard. I have a niece who's in her mid-20s, and I am not sure that I've ever seen her in the same outfit. I really am not sure I have.
Yeah.
Maybe some of the pieces, she is good with clothes, so maybe some things have been intertwined or, changed up. But in general, I think that our wardrobes, our closets are something that we can all pay a lot more attention to make sure that we're spending the money intentionally. So Scarlett is really, it helps with the intention of how it looks on you and whether or not it's the right style and color for you and your lifestyle and what you're doing. And then there's the environmental,
Right.
social angle to it as well.
Right. So in your experience, you put on your therapist hat, why do you think women tend to spend so much money on things they don't really use or even need?
Now, that's a good question, isn't it? I think there's a lot of things. I mean, so I just mentioned one thing that was for me, like I see beautiful things and I want to have them in my closet, whether or not I'm going to wear them because they're just beautiful. So I do think some people are sort of like that. They're sort of visual. I also think there's the thrill of the new, of getting something and bringing it home. And also I feel like in a little bit we were raised that way, at least people maybe of my generation. I mean, we didn't go shopping as much. And so when we did, it was sort of an exciting thing when you were when you were a teenager, right? You would go with your mom or your grandma and you would get some things and you'd bring them home and you'd look at them and you'd be like, oh, these are so cool. They're nice and new. And I'm going to be wearing them to school this week. And it was all very exciting. And
remember Loman's, the thrill of going to Loman's?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes.
I love going there.
Especially if you lived, New York, and I'm sure other places had those great discount stores too. Yeah. But yes, and then it's a cultural thing of you talk with other people about it. The big sale at your local store, or maybe now online somewhere, but back in the day when people were actually getting together to do shopping, that was a fun outing with your friends.
Yeah.
Or your grandmother or your mom.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of reasons for it, but I think it's things like it could be sort of same thing that we approach the way we approach eating sometimes, right? It's not mindful. It's sort of like, oh, I feel like something, I'm going to have 3 cookies. It's not mindful of, do I really want that cookie? Is that cookie what I really want to put in my body? It's just sort of, I'm hungry, I'm going to eat it.
And part of it is also, as I always say, it's habit. Women tend to do the same thing over and over again, even if it's wrong, like the cookie when you shouldn't eat, which I do all the time, or buying the wrong clothes, or buying one more moisturizer because you're convinced by the commercial that you're going to look 20 years younger.
Yeah.
Damn it, it doesn't work.
Yes. Well, and that's true too. One thing about women is we actually, now these stats are for the US, but it's true in general globally, is that we are the people who control most spending decisions. It doesn't mean that we have the most money, but we influence or control those decisions. So even though the purchase may be big, like the car, the house, whatever, the women's input is very crucial in making the decision on what's going to be bought. So that's nice. That's a nice power to have. But the flip side to that is that we are marketed to constantly.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Just and clothes is, appearance. I would say appearance as a whole, of which clothes and shoes, et cetera, are a major part. That's just something we're marketed to relentlessly, right? And the figures that we see in general marketing to us are these gorgeous photoshopped women that really don't resemble many of the people that we see in our real life. Right. I mean, there are many beautiful women around, and there are many beautiful just real life women, but those are sort of this almost Amazonian.
Yeah. No, they're not the typical woman. And they're also not only Photoshop, those clothes are so pinned and altered perfectly, which is why we all need to look at a tailor once in a while to make clothes really right. But it's just not real. It's just, my thing all the time is, I used to be in the cosmetic industry, so I get really angry at it sometimes. But like the mascara ads where the models are wearing false eyelashes, and you have to read the little teeny print at the bottom to see that it's false eyelashes.
Yes.
You now have to tell.
Or you read about how the photo model, like, some star or something, that if you read about how that photo shoot went down. She's lying there for 3 hours while people are applying different coats of mascara and separating all the little eyelashes
Right.
and, you know, like,
Right.
whoa.
Right.
So one of the things I always, tell my clients is because financial freedom is really important to us as women, right? So that we don't have to depend on someone else. And that is traditionally and historically, women have depended. While we might control the money decisions, the money is sort of often in the past, especially, allocated to us or given to us, and instead of us having it ourselves. And we can take so much more control of our destinies and our future. And you have to remember too that women live so much longer than men on average, and we living a long time now. Women are living into their living into their 90s a lot of the time. And that's a long time after you will have been earning consistently from a job that you will need to pay for yourself. So one of the things I always tell my clients is, we have to put our own masks on first. Now, that's not really a COVID reference, although that's important too. But it's more like the airline reference, right? To take care of other people, you have to be first taken care of. So you can't help your kid put his mask on if you're gasping for breath. You can't do it. So you get yours on first, then you help your kid or, the elderly person sitting next to you or the confused person, whatever. Mm-hmm. And we women do so much caretaking for society in general. And we've seen that, especially with COVID this year, we've seen how many women are truly essential workers in so many areas of society. But then on a personal basis, we often care for friends and relatives, parents, children. And so we have to be at our best, and that we have to be at our, and I don't mean that as a pejorative, like you've got to be so great, but we just need to be able to bring our whole selves to all that work that we do. And so that's, being physically fit, being mentally fit, emotionally fit, and being financially fit. Those are all part of how we can best bring ourselves to the world. And God, we know that the world needs women, right? So
now that metaphor works really well in so many aspects of how women treat themselves or don't treat themselves well.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that for me, when I first started doing what I'm doing, with helping women know what to wear, the market I wanted to help was the young mothers. And what I realized was that they didn't care, because they were so absorbed in, which is what you should be as a mother, that they just didn't do anything for themselves. And then they also had the gift of being younger still. So there's a little bit of like, I'm okay. And then as these women got older, then they were so self-programmed that it's all about the kids, that a lot of them started like not really caring as much about how they looked and felt. Mm-hmm. They were miserable, but they weren't doing anything about it. And then a lot of women would reach me and say, you know what? I realized that I'm setting a really bad example for my daughters, because I don't care about how I look anymore. Yes. What kind of message am I sending to my daughter? And so it kind of went the other way. And then now I really work with women who have their own businesses, because they really, really get the importance of what you wear, and how it affects how much money you make and how much money you make.
Right.
But I noticed that I had women in their 70s who would hire me and say, I don't know why I waited until now to take care of me. And if I could get one more woman today to realize that now is the perfect time to do something for yourself, whether it's to spend less or to spend more time on yourself, or just realize that if you don't put that mask on first, like you said, you can't help other people.
No, you can't. And you're so right. It's never too late to start, right? It's never too late to start really putting yourself first. And I don't mean that in a selfish way, because when we say that as women, people think, and we even think, like, oh my God, they're so selfish. I don't mean that. I mean that we take care of ourselves so we can help the people and the causes that we love. Mm-hmm. And it really is never too late to start. It's never too late to start with your money. You hear so many financial gurus talk about starting when you're 20 and 30, and that's great, and you should. That would be the absolute best. Yeah. But it's like that saying, when is the best time to to plant the tree.
Love that
Well,
one.
the best time was 20 years ago, but the next best time is today.
Right.
So
Love that
you can do
expression.
that. Yeah, it's a great expression, and
Yeah.
it really works. It works with your fitness, right? Like you could start a fitness program today, and you would be better off in a week than if you didn't do it. And the same thing with taking care of your money.
Right.
So they're really, they're just really three pretty simple steps that you can do to start making yourself better off financially. And I say simple because they are simple, but clearly they're not easy emotionally because people don't all do them. But there are, and Scarlett will post this in a minute, but there's a download that I have made available to you all, totally free, but it's 3 simple steps, tips from ordinary millionaires. So these are people who were receptionists and janitors and auto mechanics who saved millions of dollars in their lives, who had assets of millions of dollars when they died. Of course, they could have given away some before they died, but I mean, the way we know about them is because they make these really great bequests to causes that are important to them. And so then we read about them in the paper. But when you go back and look at a lot of these stories, they all have some of the same elements. And one of the important ones is starting as soon as you can. So that might have been when you were 20, but if you didn't do that then, the next time is now. So again, you can certainly download this document, and on that,
I put it in the chat so people can see it there.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you. So please download that. And there's also on that the opportunity to have a free Your Next Step to Wealth call, where we can pinpoint the exact next step that you should be taking given your particular circumstances to start growing your wealth right now, this year, immediately, January.
Right.
So I'm,
great time.
really,
Everybody thinks January is the start, but like we were just saying, anytime is the right time to start.
Yeah,
But
that's true. If you're listening to this after January, the time to start is whatever it is then. But since we're January 15 now, I'm using that.
Right. But there are a lot of people who really need to get better at saving money and spending it wisely and so grab those tips if you don't see them, email me later on or DM me, whatever that is, and I will give you the download again, the download link again. But it's really important to start now to take care of your money, and it doesn't mean that you shouldn't spend money. It just means you need to learn how to spend money the right way, right?
I think that's it. I think when we say save or budget, those words have constraining connotations, right? Like I can't do what I want to do. I'm doing less. But I think the way that it's helpful to think about that is there are things I want in life. So how do I get those things? And some part of that equation will be the necessary money for those things, whether they are helping a relative or a child, with college expenses, or buying a new home, or giving a gift later to grandchildren, or a particular cause that you really like and want to help with. A lot of those things have a monetary component. So it's putting those things, which may be in the future, but making them really real and important to you today, just as important as that $13.99 Zara dress, so that you will take that $14 and put it in something else, as opposed to buying yet one more thing that maybe you'll wear 1 or 2 times and then
I much prefer, for me personally, I don't have a lot of clothes, but I have a lot of clothes that I can make a lot of outfits with the few clothes I have. I get great pleasure out of buying something that works with what I already have. That's one way that I always, want people to save money. That's how I do it too. But do you have any client story, but no names, please, that you can think of about somebody who changed her mind, changed her habits, and how she's.
I can actually think of 2 right off the top of my head. And one was triggered by when you said making different outfits. So I gave a talk a couple years ago at the Wing, which is a women's co-working group. Yeah. And I said, okay, so our assignment is we're all going to go away before the next talk, which was the week later. And we're going to look at our recurring expenses for the year, whether those were, Lyft or Uber or gym membership or Netflix, whatever, all of those recurring charges. and see what we think we really used and are worth the money that we spent. Because, Netflix, okay, I think we all think Netflix is worth it, especially right now, but it's 1377 times 12.
Yeah.
1377 is nothing, but then times 12, it starts to add up, right? So all of those recurring expenses. So anyway, this woman came in the next time and she said, oh my gosh, I realized how often I was buying the inexpensive clothes. And so what I did was she downloaded an app, and I can't think of the name right now, but anyway, it helps you in your closet do exactly what Scarlett was just saying of, mix and match outfits.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, she was very digital. So
Yeah.
that got everybody in the audience was so interested in that. Like they sort of lost track of what I was talking about now, and they wanted to go talk to her. So she had really changed. And then several other people lately told me afterwards told me they had too.
Right.
And then another story is another client, older, just a super dresser, like really, really great. And so I had her do the same thing of look at her expenses over the year. And she came back and she said, oh, Jo, my gosh, when I see how much I have spent on clothes compared to other things that I love to do, like travel or even, redecorating her home and things like this. She goes, it's just so totally, for me, I realized that, it's just gotten out of whack.
Right.
So she really cut back and is now putting more of her money towards making a bequest to her children. She's in her late 50s, a bequest to her children, and then also, and grandchildren, and then towards saving money for travel, which she wants to do with her kids and her grandchildren, in upcoming.
And although she has plenty of clothes that she could pack for those trips.
Oh my gosh, she's got such gorgeous clothes. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. The answer is really not to spend more. The answer is to find out how you should do things smart, and
I would say that's true. Yeah. And look at, again, I think a lot of us separate out our finances from it's like, that's not our real life. Somehow our life is over here, and, and I do all these things. I take care of these people. I go to the gym. I have my work. I take care of the home, whatever, all this stuff that we do. And then, then the money is sort of something over here that I take care of separately, or I may, look at separately. But it's really all part of the whole. And money is the number one stressor for most people.
Right.
So it's really worthwhile getting, your hands around this issue. And ignoring it doesn't mean it'll go away.
Do you have, because you remind me, do you have women, I've seen a number of women who didn't pay attention to the money, didn't really, it was my husband's thing, and either have gotten divorced or became, widows.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, oh my God, I don't even know who to call.
That's right. That's one of the biggest I've found with money, probably like with a lot of things, like, people get a bad health diagnosis and all of a sudden they start eating better and exercising better. It's sort of the same with money. There's a pain point somehow, somewhere. You lose your job, your spouse dies, or you get a divorce or whatever. And you think, oh my gosh, I didn't pay enough attention to this early on.
Right.
So that's actually what I do a lot with, is really helping clarify and simplify money for people. And if they need to find a proper financial advisor, someone who will actually manage their money for them, then we work together to do that. I'm not an advisor. I'm qualified to be one, but that's not what I want to do. I want to work with the more simple, basic stuff, right, so that you understand your money at least enough to ask questions and be really on top of it, even though someone else may do the investing for you.
Not be so afraid of it.
And not be so afraid of it, and not ignore it because you're afraid or you're overwhelmed, right, or you're intimidated. Right. Like so many women tell me they're just that they are overwhelmed with the choice in finance and the jargon, but they're also just very intimidated. And we have to face it. I mean, this is a business that has been built by and for men. And so some of its practices and, well, just it's very male, focused, yeah, but it's not, believe me, it's not impenetrable. It's not really difficult when you get down to it. It's like many things. Like we all probably thought we couldn't figure out how to, those of us who are a little older, when computers were introduced, in our working lives, we thought, oh my God, we'll never know how to do all this. And look, we do. It's not a big deal.
Look at us.
So,
we're doing
it's the same thing with money.
I
You can
know
learn it.
anything is possible if you want to. I really appreciate you were here. Thank you so much. I
Oh,
know.
Scarlett, thanks so much for having me.
Well, I know money is money and dressing to when you've gained weight. Those are very sensitive topics, but if you handle these things and if you deal with these things, the only way you're going to feel is better, and the only way you're going to feel is
You've
more
got that right.
stronger.
Yep, you're right. They're perennial. They're perennial topics of importance. They're perennial resolution topics. So anyway, thank you so much for having me. I would love to talk to any of you out there. So do download my freebie and book a free call.
Yeah,
it's totally free.
Yeah, get her tips because we all could use them. And remember, it's not that you shouldn't spend money. It's that you need to learn how to spend money on the right things and in the right way. All right, guys. All right. See you next week. Thank you, Jo.
Thank you. Bye.